Itihas Purana refers to historical tradition. This refers to historical tradition of ancient India. Whether I clear it and make it tidy. Historical tradition. Or in a simple way, tradition of history in ancient India. So this term itself, Itihas Puran term itself is important for a question in preliminary examination. Now, Itihas Puran, what refers to historical tradition, developed or evolved out of these 5 literary forms. 1. Gathas, meaning songs. 2. Kathas, meaning stories. 3. Puranas, meaning ancient laws. 4. Akhyan, meaning dramatic narratives. 5. Narasamsis, meaning praise of heroes. So these represent 5 literary forms. And these 5 literary forms we find in Vedic literature. When Vedic literature was in oral form. This means during this period. 1500 BC to 600 BC. This is Vedic age. This period is Vedic age. And this is the period of the emergence of or composition of Vedic literature. And Vedic literature I have already completed in the previous lecture. So what I am saying here is that these literary forms 1 to 5 are there in scattered forms in Vedic literature. So these 5 forms are there in scattered forms in Vedic literature. These are considered the composition of priest poets during Vedic age. And these compositions were sung in the gathering and at the time of the performance of sacrifices. And this was all in oral tradition. Quite obvious because Vedic literature was in oral tradition during this time. And they were the parts of this. And professional class known as Sutas, I'm writing the plural form, or Magadhas. In English, bards. So it's a professional group representing bards. So Sutas and Magadhas, a professional class you can say, worked on the collection, preservation and compilation, that is compilation in organized and systematic form. So their work are related to their collection and organization and systematization played a role in preserving this. And eventually, certain forms were penned down. Puranas were penned down. We have done a literature Puranas in the previous lecture. We have done epics, and under epics, a form is the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is considered a developed and organized form of Akhya, representing dramatic narratives. So, what I want to say here is that the Itihasa Purana or historical tradition in ancient times emerged or evolved out of these literary forms, what we find in Vedic literature. They were preserved, compiled, organized, and sustained over a long period, and finally, some of them were penned down. The two are important: Mahabharata, representing Akhyan, and Puranas. And one more thing important here. If we consider the basic feature of Itihas Purana, so there are three basic features of Itihas Purana. I am illustrating separately. Itihas Purana. So three features are there. One, myths. Two, genealogies. Genealogies. And three, historical narratives. So first, myths. Myths represent legends. Genealogy, that represent dynastic history. And historical narratives, that represent narration of history. So myths do not represent pure history. Genealogies represent elements of pure history, if free from myths and legends, and historical narratives also represent elements of history. So this means in ancient times there emerged a tradition that is known as Itihasa Purana, which represent historical tradition.